On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks did not forget one of their main lessons from the NBA Finals run. Quentin Grimes and Naji Marshall embody it. I'll tell you why in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Take us with you. Leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, Pocket Cast, YouTube Music, anything like that. Like the video on YouTube, comment anything below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, we're talking about Quentin Grimes and Naji Marshall, their introductory press conference. I did Klay Thompson's yesterday, talked all about that, talked about why Klay Thompson was such a big addition for the Dallas Mavericks as an organization and all that. So if you missed that episode, go listen to that one. Talked about Summer League and Omax Prosper the day before that. So go listen to that one. We're still going daily. Ladies and gentlemen. But today, talk about what Quentin Grimes and Naji Marshall will bring to the table. I think that they shared a couple of things that are really interesting. We'll hear some clips from them. We'll talk about Klay as a veteran on this team too, because Naji Marshall and Quentin Grimes are very excited about Klay Thompson. But I want to start here with Quentin Grimes and Naji Marshall. One of the big lessons the Mavericks learned in the NBA Finals, and one of the things that I said that they needed to take with them, right? That one of the things they needed to take with them. You cannot get away from the dirty work wings. This Mavericks defense works because you've got two guys in Luka and Kyrie that you don't want to give the best defensive assignments to, obviously. You kind of want to hide them because they're given such a load on the offensive end. They're also not the greatest defensive players. They can hold their own, and if they do hold their own, the defense can be elite. We saw that. But what they absolutely need and can't get away from is dirty work wings. And you lose Derrick Jones Jr., and you're like, oh, man. Did they lose that lesson? They missed that lesson, that they needed to keep those dirty work wings. It worked in 2022 when you had Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock. And it worked when they had Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington. Still got PJ Washington. That's good. He's going to play a lot of minutes for the Mavericks this season. But then you lose Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green goes, and you're like, all right, who are they bringing in to replace this? And you bring in Naji Marshall and you bring in Quentin Grimes, and these guys are going to embody dirty work wings next year. Klay Thompson changes that in the starting lineup a little bit. We're going to have to explore that. Jason Kidd's going to have to mess with that a little bit. We've already kind of talked about the Klay Thompson-ness of it all and how Kidd is going to have to manage the ego of that and balance it with what the Mavericks actually need as far as a dirty work wing next to PJ Washington with Luka and Kyrie that works together, that makes this work. Sometimes Klay won't close games because of that. Sometimes Klay won't close games because he's going to need, Jason Kidd is going to need to put these dirty work wings in, to play the defense, to do the toughness, to do, hustle plays, things like that. To do the toughness is an excellent sentence for me. But these guys were asked about the defense, the toughness, what they bring to the table, and I thought that this was very interesting from their introductory press conference. I believe Naji Marshall speaks first here.
One of the marks that this Mavs team made was kind of defense and toughness. I just wonder how much of all three of y'all identify with that and hope to implement that with this Mavs team this year.
Well, I say playing against these two, that's why they're here. Not because it's pretty, because they lock up, they're willing to do the dirty work, and I've got against both them, so we're going to have some battles in practice. I'm excited about that.
Definitely. That's kind of my MO, toughness, defense. So one of the things I bring to the game, and something I love to do. So like you said, that's kind of what they use to get what they got this year. And I'm just here to pick up whatever slack they lost or just add to.
Yeah, same thing, just reiterate what they said, just coming in. That was kind of my calling card coming in from Houston. Playing for Coach Sampson, you can't play defense, you're not going to be on the floor. So playing for Tibbs as well, too. If you don't play defense and scrap and fight for every 50-50 ball, you're not going to court. So that's what I try to do from day one, and I'm going to still do it till I can't play the game anymore, really.
I love in that the question was being asked about these guys, and Klay Thompson looks at those two guys and goes, yeah, these guys are going to embody that. I've played against these guys before. The battles in practice we're going to have are going to be awesome. That to me was exciting. And we'll talk a little bit later about how Klay Thompson being a veteran is going to impact this team. And so I love that Klay took that opportunity to, he's sitting there right at this press conference. Press conference, 10 a.m. the other day. It's about Klay Thompson. And there were a couple of Warriors fans that were upset. Like, oh, why isn't Klay Thompson not getting his own press conference? And I don't think any Mavs fans were, because that's the way the Mavericks have done it with everybody together and all that. We've seen that, with Kyrie and Markieff Morris last year. That was a weird one. But yeah, they throw them together. And I kind of think Klay wanted to do it with other guys. And I like that he got the opportunity in doing that and having a press conference with himself, Naji Marshall, and Quentin Grimes. That he got the opportunity to point over to those guys and be like, yeah, I've played against these guys. They embody this defense, this toughness, the dirty work. Naji Marshall said, that's my MO. I think you as a Mavs fan are going to love Naji Marshall. I talked to Jake Madison, Locked On Pelicans again today, and he was like, he reiterated, you guys are going to love what Naji Marshall brings. He's going to be crazy at times. He does some wild things. He throws wild passes. He can put down some wild dunks sometimes, some wild drives, things like that. And every once in a while you'll be like, oh my gosh, can this guy do a lot more? But he still will always do the hustle stuff, the dirty work, the extra things, get the loose balls, things like that. Defensive toughness, that's my MO. I think Jason Kidd's going to have a hard time keeping Naji Marshall off the floor. And I'm going to talk about his hunger and his motivation a little bit later, too, because I think that's something he talked about that I think is very important. But Grimes also said, that's my calling card. That was my calling card coming out of Houston, where he went to college. He started at Kansas, and then he transferred over to Houston. And he learned from his coach. It's like, hey, if you guys don't defend, his coach said, if you guys don't defend, you're going to run. And I didn't want to run, so I defended. And that's how he learned how to defend and learned how to be this type of defender. And you got to love that. The Mavs need that. They need the dirty work wings. Another thing that these guys said is taking pride on the defensive end. And it was a good question about why these guys take pride on the defensive end.
Quentin, there was a stat from the end of your time with the Knicks that you were guarding the toughest players in the league. You ranked first. Do you take pride? Why do you take so much pride in guarding the toughest players? And then question for Klay and Naji. When you see the Mavericks have the #1 defense to close the year, how exciting is that to be able to join that and bring y'all's defensive skills to that?
Yeah, I definitely take a lot of pride on the defensive end. I think once I made that transition to Houston from Kansas, like Coach Sampson, you got to give 110% or he gonna run you to death, and I wasn't trying to run, so I had to make sure every time I stepped on the court, it kind of stuck with me. And then once I went to the Knicks, everybody know Tibbs, like you got to give it 110% again, or he's not gonna play you. As a rookie, you got to earn that trust some other way besides pounding the air out the ball. I knew that wasn't gonna be the way. So then in my second year, me getting every assignment from Trae Young and Jason Tatum, I wanted to make sure I'm trying to make the guys, whoever I'm guarding, and kind of like hell for real. So I'm going out there trying to make it hard every single time. I got a lot of pride in that end. Not going to let you score on me. If you're going to score on me, I'm going to tip your hat. It's probably going to be a tough bucket. So but I'm going to keep coming at you on defensive end, offensively as well. So take a lot of pride in that end.
I think it's unbelievable, especially, what I bring to the game and just to be #1 in the defense, and to add to that is just crazy, and I'm just really just looking forward to it.
I mean, I'm so excited. I used to have to do the A job, which is chase around the best player for 40 minutes, and although I'm capable, having great defenders, especially on the wing, just gives me a lot of relief to be able to switch and guard bigs to point guards, and just the versatility of this team defensively, I think, has gotten better this offseason. And us three can really, guard anyone on the perimeter or even on the block. We're not afraid of that challenge, and I think that's what Michael and the rest of the front office saw in us, is like, these guys compete. And as an athlete, skill is important, but that competitiveness, that's what really puts you over the top.
Yeah, this is what they do. Klay was like, hey, I'm glad that I don't have to do the job that these guys do, which I think was interesting, because are the Mavs going to ask Klay to do that? But you've got Quentin Grimes, who says, I had to guard guys like Trae Young to Jason Tatum. That's a big swing to go from a 6'1" guy to a 6'9" guy that's doing completely different things on the court, all that kind of stuff. Quentin Grimes took pride in his defense, said that it was his calling card. Played for Tom Thibodeau, played for Coach Sampson in Houston that he mentioned, then played for Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks. That is playing for some really good defensive coaches. I think he's going to make some waves in this rotation. I think that's going to be something the Mavericks absolutely need, because they didn't forget their lesson. They did not forget their lesson of the dirty work wings. They have them. Now, when do they play them? It may not look like it in the starting lineup, but they will be playing and be featured throughout the game. And I think that that's super important for the Mavericks. Glad they didn't forget this lesson. And I'm glad that we're hearing from Naji Marshall and Quentin Grimes that they embodied this for the Mavericks. Coming up, let's talk about what else they bring to the table. Let's talk about their defense a little bit more, but talk about what else these guys can bring to the table. Talk about all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and get whatever you need when it comes to tickets. You know that there's all kinds of stuff happening in DFW all the time. I use Game Time. I used it to go to Dallas Wings games. I used it to go to a musical. Went to Les Mis back in December, and I use it for all kinds of stuff. So use Game Time. And what I love about Game Time is you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all that kind of stuff. I've saved a lot. Using Game Time because you get the last-minute deals. Even as you're driving to the event, you can get Game Time, and you can open it up and be like, all right, as I'm driving, if I'm in the passenger seat, I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to buy our tickets on the way there because they're going to go down in price as we get closer. They also have the all-in pricing, which I love. You'll be able to toggle it, see exactly what your price is going to be, right there instead of getting surprised by all those fees. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Listening, we have a daily 24/7 stream, Locked On Sports Dallas, on the Locked On Sports Dallas YouTube channel, as well as the Amazon Fire TV. It has all the different shows. This is not just a one-show operation. Locked On NBA that I host. I was on there tonight. We got Locked On Cowboys, Locked On Rangers, Locked On Stars, Locked On Texas A&M, Locked On Aggies is that one, Locked On Longhorns, Locked On TCU, all kinds of stuff. So go check it out. Locked On Sports Dallas, 24/7 stream, Amazon Fire, YouTube TV. All right. The dirty work wings. The Mavs have got them. They've got guys that take pride on defense. Both of those guys said great things about taking pride on the defensive end. Coming in, doing the dirty work, defending guys, taking pride in that end. That's something that I think is super important for this Mavericks team because you've got Luka and Kyrie and Klay. And the three of those guys, I'm not sure exactly where they are in their career. I did find it interesting. Klay's like, I'm still capable of defending like that. Love that confidence from Klay Thompson. And I think that if he is just capable, it's like it's the same as what Luka and Kyrie are. And if they can all hold their own, then you got PJ and Lively to be good at their end. And I still think you can have a competent defense. And then the offense is going to go way up with Klay. And that's how I think that you work the calculus out with that. But the other two guys are going to come in and bring defense along with, you've still got PJ Washington, still got Derek Lively, still got Daniel Gafford. You still got, Maxi Kleber coming off the bench. I know that Mavs fans are not super excited about Maxi Kleber right now, but don't forget the last 3 months of the season, he was really good on defense, especially as like a 4. Play him next to Gafford, play him next to Lively. It's really hard to score against 2 6'10" guys that are switchable like Maxey and Gafford. Then you slide PJ Washington down. Then you got big defenders all over the place. It makes it difficult. So the Mavs still have defenders. They bring in these two guys. Loved what I heard from them in the press conferences about defense, about toughness, about taking pride on the defensive end. Klay still being capable, which I thought was great as well. What else do these guys bring to the table? I think that something these guys bring to the table is Grimes talked about his playmaking. When I asked him this question, I asked what skills do you think that you want to take to the next level here with the Mavericks? And this is what they said, starting with Naji Marshall in this one.
I think just my overall game, get better on defensive end, offensive end. Just from every way, just in every type of way, just get better. Make the game easier, continue to soak up knowledge and learn.
Then for me, it's kind of to get back to being more of a playmaker, like how I was in college and high school and stuff like that. Because like you said, like Luke and Kyrie and Klay definitely gonna have a lot of attention on them on the court. So just the playoff closeouts, knocking down, taking open shots when it's there. So just being able to learn from J. Kidd, and you can see from watching all the games in the playoffs, he gives freedom to all these guys out there. So I'm super excited about that. And just learning every day from this. It's a great organization. It felt like family the whole time I was in the building yesterday, meeting everybody, a bunch of new faces. So I'm really excited to just be around the whole organization, everybody, every single day.
Bunch of stuff in what Quentin Grimes said. I loved his answer. I think Naji Marshall kind of punted that one. He said he wants to improve at everything. Good. I'm glad. There is a confidence with Naji Marshall in some of the answers that he gave that I'm very excited to talk about a little later. But with Quentin Grimes, I think it was interesting. And this is what I wanted when I asked this question. So what skills do you want to take to the next level? He said, I want to get back to being more of a playmaker, like how I was in college and high school, stuff like that. Luka, Kyrie, Klay, they're going to bring a lot of attention to those guys. And so while that's happening, I want to attack closeouts, knock down shots, take the open shot when it's there. And that's exactly what the Mavericks are going to need. And they'll get that from both of these guys. Both of these guys can put the ball on the floor, do a little bit more, pass a little bit, shoot a little bit, drive a little bit. And the Mavs are slowly but surely going from the limited dirty work wings to from Dorian Finney-Smith and Bullock, who did their jobs excellently, but kind of only played defense and knocked down threes. And slowly but surely, they went to, all right, PJ Washington or Derek Jones Jr. has entered the chat. He can do a little bit more, but still was kind of limited because he couldn't really knock down the threes that much. He did sometimes. And then PJ Washington entered the chat. Like, all right, now we can post him up and he can handle the ball a little bit. We can do a little bit more with him. And all of a sudden he's getting plays called for him in the OKC series and like all this stuff. He can do a little bit more. And I'm excited to see what he can do with a full training camp. So you introduce him. And so now the Mavs introduce Quentin Grimes, Naji Marshall. I think they can do a little bit more. Not a ton. You're not going to ask them to start plays or to initiate offense or anything like that. But just like Quentin Grimes said, attack closeouts, take the open shots. I think they can make the open pass and make the reads that are there. I've seen from Naji Marshall, seen from Quentin Grimes a little bit, the passing ability. And so he talked about wanting to learn from J. Kidd. Learning, the freedom all the guys get on the court. He said he was excited about that. And then also, the last thing that he said is something that I talked about yesterday with the narrative for the Mavericks. Felt like family the whole time I was in the building yesterday. Bunch of new faces. I'm really excited to just be around the whole organization, everybody, every single day. The family atmosphere. Mavs changing their narrative. Love that. I think that's really great from them. So, Grimes being a playmaker, I think, is something to look at. What can he bring to the table? Both of these guys being able to play off the dribble, attack closeouts, things like that. I think that's something else that they bring to the table. Michael Finley talked about their shooting, and I think that's something that's really interesting and really piqued my interest. And this is what Michael Finley had to say about the shooting of these guys, obviously Klay, but included these guys in the end as well.
Well, I think every team in the league would love to have more shooting. That's the way the game is going. And it was very obvious during our playoff runs, especially in the games that we lost, not only in the finals, but in some of the other playoff games, that if we had more shooting, it would gives us a better opportunity to win those games. And I think in the finals, we saw that a couple of games. We make a shot here and there. That's a different series. So now, by adding these type of players, it's not going to answer it's not going to be the ultimate answer per se, but it gives us a better chance to win those games when we need big shots to be made. And especially, I know these three guys are capable of taking and making those big shots.
I kind of like how he couched that at the end when he goes, it's not going to be the ultimate answer per se. Adding these three guys, like all these three guys that are sitting right next to me, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet from me. They're not the complete answer. They're excited about potentially winning a title here. We're not expecting to win a title just because we added these three guys. I kind of find that really funny. But I think that he's right. And you did add shooting. And you went from Tim Hardaway was inconsistent shooting to Klay Thompson, one of the greatest shooters of all time. Still a good shooter even in a down year last year. Down year for Tim Hardaway is 34%. Down year for Klay Thompson is 38%. Okay. Big difference. 33%, 31% Tim Hardaway. Didn't Tim Hardaway in the Knicks one year? Now, when's the last time I'm going to look up Tim Hardaway Jr. on Basketball Reference? 31% with the Knicks, 2018. Yep, that's a down year for Tim Hardaway. Down year for Klay Thompson, 39%. But these guys, they did add shooting. Naji Marshall shot 38% last year on a full season. Multiple attempts. Wasn't kind of like a full fluke. Now, we'll see if it was if that's sustainable for him, because he was not a good shooter the first couple years. It was a little shaky. But last year, really good. 38% on a couple attempts a game is good Quentin Grimes has been a good shooter in this league, and I feel confident about his shooting coming into the Mavericks, getting these open opportunities. He did not have that great of a playmaker with the Knicks the years that he was there with them. That's not a dig on Jalen Brunson. Kind of, but he's not Luka as a playmaker. I mean, I don't think that's going too far to say that. But these guys bringing shooting, I think that's something else they can bring to the table. And I think that's something that's exciting, that you are getting these guys that are the dirty work wings that can do a little bit extra off the dribble, but they can also knock down shots so that they can, there are closeouts against those guys. There are defenders that run at them and try to stop their shot. And so then they run and do something else. I think that's exciting. What else is exciting is Klay Thompson as a veteran on this team. We already saw it a little bit. We've already heard from him a little bit. But why is Klay Thompson being a veteran to these guys specifically going to be exciting? We'll talk about all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, let's get into the rest of this. Klay Thompson, as a veteran, he's won 4 championships. He's like a star to these guys. He's one of the best shooters of all time, and I think that's exciting. These guys talked about learning from him and all this. And they were asked what was their response when they heard that Klay Thompson was joining the Mavericks just like they were. And this is what they had to say.
I told everybody we're going to win a championship. Yeah, that was basically it. I was excited. Unbelievable. Like I said earlier, to learn from Jason Kidd, learn from Klay, even himself, become a better shooter, just a better pro. He's been in the league a long time, and, just unbelievable. It feels surreal. Me and my friends, we so excited about it, and I'm excited myself.
Yeah, I told my friends, we about to get a ring. I'm about to get a ring. So, but no, definitely just like I said, one of the best shooters of all time. For me as a shooter, coming in, I'm going to learn from him every day. Being able to shoot with him every day in practice, just competing against him every day in practice. So that's when kind of we bring the best out of each other. So going against Naji every day, we got a good group of guys. And when we got Klay, I was like, man, sky's the limit. I'm just excited to learn from him every single day, honestly.
You got to love that. And I think with Klay Thompson, think about what Kyrie was able to impart to some of the young guys on this team. I know Jaden Hardy had a down year, but Jaden Hardy coming into the playoffs and playing the role that he did in both the Western Conference Finals and the Finals, to come in and do some of the stuff he did, I think Kyrie Irving had a part in that. Kyrie Irving imparting to Derek Lively. Derek Lively would talk all the time about how Kyrie was the leader that got him to where he is, that he listens, in Kyrie we trust, all that. So they had Kyrie, and now you add Klay Thompson to that. Naji talked about wanting to learn from him as a shooter. Imagine getting to see Klay Thompson's process, getting to see how he warms up, getting to see how he practices, getting to see how he goes through his shooting motion. How do you get from cold, coming into a gym cold, to Klay Thompson level shooting? How do you get there? I think he's going to be able to watch that. I think Naji Marshall, Quentin Grimes are going to both learn from that. Jaden Hardy's going to learn from that. Omax is going to learn a lot from that. I'm excited to see even what Lively learns from him. I mean, getting to see one of the best shooters of all time up close has got to be something that is awesome for these guys. And I think having Klay Thompson as a veteran is another voice in the locker room that has won a championship, won multiple championships. The Mavs just had Kyrie last year, and Markieff Morris was a veteran too that had won a championship with the Lakers. But now you've got another one that comes in. It's going to play a big role. You remember a couple years ago we talked about JJ Barea on the Mavericks, and we talked about him as a veteran presence and all that. And then there was that talk about, well, why don't the Mavs just not bring JJ Barea back as a player, but have him as an assistant coach and then have that presence there? It's not the same. It's not the same. Just because Jason Kidd has won a championship with the Mavericks, he doesn't have the same kind of impact as let me impart some wisdom to you from player, ex-player to player. As a guy that's on the court with you, playing minutes, having a role in the team. The Mavs now have a star player in Kyrie that can do that. And their third, fourth, probably leading minute getter in Klay Thompson that's going to be able to do that. I think that's super exciting. Love that. Love that they were both also we're going to win a championship. Oh my God, we're going to win a championship. They didn't even hold back on that. Oh my God, we're going to win a championship. Klay, when Naji Marshall said, we're going to get a championship, Klay looked down and then did a little fist pump with his hand. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Have that confidence. Couple of notes on Naji Marshall and that confidence. He was asked, Dorothy Gentry asked him a question about where are you the most happy, and then she also asked about, like, do you have a hidden talent? And this is what Naji Marshall said. But I think you can hear me laughing in the background of this clip.
I'm talented at everything, to be honest. I can do it all, so you name it, I'm good at it. So I'm talented at everything, to be honest. I can do it all, so
I'm talented at everything. This drop is gonna serve us so well this season.
I'm talented at everything.
That's so great. As well as this one too with Klay Thompson.
Still can't leave me open.
That's correct, Klay Thompson.
Still can't leave me open.
That's right. I think that's so funny. But Naji Marshall has a confidence about him, and there's a hunger to Naji Marshall with where he came from, being an undrafted player. He said this, being undrafted, what motivated me? I just knew I was a good player, just wanted the opportunity to showcase my skills. And I knew that I got that when I got that opportunity, it was over with. That's a confidence right there. That's a confidence from a player like a Dorian Finney-Smith that we talked about in the past. Undrafted. As soon as I get my opportunity, it's done. I've got this. Man. And then he talked about opportunity. As far as with the Pelicans, we had a lot of injuries. Just being able to the next man up. Other teams don't have sympathy for you. So when it's your opportunity, you got to take full advantage. I think Naji Marshall coming into this Mavericks team being hungry. There's not going to be a role guaranteed for him, I don't think. I think he's going to have a big role, but it's not going to be guaranteed for him. You need hungry players. For a team that just went to the finals, you can't have any kind of, oh, we've been here before. We got this. Arms folded. All right, everyone knows what their role is going to be. I kind of think the Nuggets dealt with that this year. And then all of a sudden they start fighting for the number 1 seed, and then you're like, all right, then we don't have enough at the end. All right, we've been here before. We don't have to deal, all right, everybody's coming for us. We're the hunted. Everybody's comfortable in their role, get complacent. Can't get complacent when it's Lively versus Gafford for the starting lineup and who wants to play more minutes and who wants to prove themselves. And yeah, it's going to be friendly and a brotherly back and forth competition. We'll talk about all that. But to have Naji Marshall, who's got something to prove, undrafted, just got a contract, but hey, I've got to prove that I can play in this role right here. And
I'm talented at everything, to be honest.
He's talented at everything. Quentin Grimes, I think, has a lot to prove too. He also mentioned in this that he's 100% healthy, which is super great because he was out for the remainder of the season with the Pistons for muscle soreness from a knee injury that he had. He missed 29 out of the Pistons' last 35 games last season. And then before he got traded to the Pistons, he missed 2 games towards the beginning of the season. He started like the first, 20 games or so. Missed 2 games, left wrist injury. Started 7 more games. Shot 4 of 21 from 3. And then he lost his starting spot to Dante DiVincenzo. And then 27 games later, he was traded for Bogdanovic to the Pistons. And so he lost his starting spot with the Knicks. That's kind of the last time we saw Quentin Grimes on the court. We've talked a lot about his numbers from not last year, but the year before that. But he lost his spot on the Knicks in 2024. Like that, not that long ago. He's got something to prove. He's coming in hungry. So not only do you have these 2 centers that are going to be in competition, I believe, you got Naji Marshall, I'm
talented at everything.
And he's going to be going after everybody in front of him and everybody next to him, everybody all the time. He's called the Knife. That's his nickname. I'm excited to see what he brings. You've got Klay Thompson.
Still can't leave me open.
Who is going to be motivated to prove that he can do something without the Warriors. And you've got Quentin Grimes now, who lost his starting spot with the Knicks and is probably not going to have a starting spot with the Mavericks. It'd be wild if he worked his way to get there. What would Quentin Grimes... That's probably a what if we have to do this in the offseason as well. What if Quentin Grimes starts a bunch of games for the Mavericks? What kind of a season would he have to have? What would he have to prove to the Mavericks to oh my God, he's starting ahead of PJ Washington or Klay or, be wild. No injuries and Quentin Grimes starts. He's going to be motivated. And I think that's exciting. So these 2 guys, they embody what the Dallas Mavericks need. They're the dirty work wings. They bring all the little stuff the Mavericks need. They're hungry. They're ready to go. They bring extra skills to the table. The Mavericks did really well with these 2 guys. And their roster is pretty balanced right now. They may add somebody else. We kind of talked about that earlier last week. And so we'll see, but it doesn't seem like anybody's moving quickly. There's no rumors or anything like that, so that's why I haven't covered it. But yeah, great to see these guys, hear from these guys. You can watch the whole press conference. WFAA posted it on their YouTube page. You can go watch that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. We will continue to have more episodes. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back with more Summer League stuff starting soon. Saturday, first Summer League game. So we'll have that. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!